Hi everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can create seamless multi-frame shapes for Canva using Affinity Designer. I'm working on the desktop version of Designer, however the process is the same in the iPad version, so if you're following along on one you should have no trouble as long as you know where the tools are located. I provided a free download in the description below of an assets pack with the vectorized shapes I'll be using, so you can work along with me or use your own vector shapes. Let's get started. I'm here in Designer and I've set up a 3600 by 3600 pixel canvas. I want to use a higher resolution because while I'll be starting with vector shapes, I'm going to be exporting rasters and I need to make sure the resolution's high enough that I don't run into any issues with printing. I'm going to pull in this heart shape I created. You can use any shape for this, whether you create it here in Designer or import it. You can even use one of the assets I provided. You just need to make sure that you start with a vector. I'm going to pull in this torn paper shape from the assets pack and I'm going to set it around the middle and scale it up. I want this to cut across the middle of the heart shape because ultimately I want three frame pieces, top, middle, and bottom, and I want everything encased inside of the heart shape and seamless from top to bottom with no gaps. So right now I have these two areas that are overhanging the heart and need to trim them off. The easiest way to do that is using the shape builder tool. So I'll click and drag to select both the heart and the torn paper. I'll grab my shape builder. I can also hit S on my keyboard and you can see that I get these areas lighting up as I hover over them. I'm going to go to the contextual menu at the top and choose delete. And then I'm going to hover over what I want to trim and just click to get rid of it. If anything's left over, just click and drag until they light up in red and you can get rid of those as well. Now all of my leftover shapes are inside of the heart. In order to create the frames in Canva, I need to add raster elements to the three areas where I want frames. To make them act as separate frames rather than one large piece, I need to add three separate rasters, and I'm going to do that using the Vector Flood Fill tool. So once again, I'm going to click and drag to select my shapes, and I'll grab the Vector Flood Fill tool. Now, the first time that you use this when you open a new document, it's going to give you this red fill. This is a vector, not a raster, so that's not going to work. Instead, I'm going to go to my stock studio and I've keyed in craft paper. The image itself doesn't matter because we're going to be removing them. I just chose this. Go ahead and key anything in. The Vector Flood Fill tool can add these as three separate bitmap fills, which is perfect for what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to select one of these and you can see that my fill is going to change over here. I'll hover over this top shape and you can see it sort of lights up. I'll click to add that bitmap. I'm going to select a second image, click over the middle here, and then add the third one to the bottom. Now, I didn't need to select three different images. The most important thing is I have three separate bitmap shapes. I just do this because it's easier to see once I go to remove them later. Now, when you look at my layers, you can see I have three new layers in the shape of each section created by the torn paper. It's also removed that torn paper vector. Sometimes they'll hang around. If it does, you can just delete whatever you don't need. Now, I actually want to keep this heart shape because I'm going to use that for the next step. I want to add a vector outline around my heart shape. It's going to end up being a separate layer in Canva, so I can easily remove it if I don't want to use it in a design, but I like the option of having it there. And if I want, I can actually create multiple vector outlines so that I have options, and I think I am going to do that here. I'm going to add both a solid line and then one with a scalloped edge so that I have two options to choose from. Now, anything that I add as a vector here is going to be color changeable in Canva, and again, it's going to be removable. The one stipulation is that the vector elements either need to be at the bottom of the layer stack or peeking through cutouts in the shapes. And I have a separate tutorial about creating frames with vectors that I'll link below that talks about the cutouts. Now in this case, my vectors are all going to be at the bottom of the layer stack once they're in Canva, but we're going to need to export them in a different order. I'll talk about that more in a bit. I'm going to select the curve layer, and in this case, I don't need a stroke on it, I just need a fill. I'm going to go up to my contour tool. I can also choose O on my keyboard, and I'll click and drag to the right to bring that border out. Once it's set where I want it, I just want to bake the appearance. Now, I do want to mention at the bottom here, if you want it to be pointed, just go up to the contour type here and just hit miter join. And then I'll bake the appearance, which is going to set that contour. That means it's not going to change. It's also not going to cause any issues once we go to create the frames. So I'm going to use this to create my other one. I'm going to Command or Control J to duplicate this, and I'll turn this one off. This is going to be the straight outline shape. This is going to be scalloped. This time I do want to add a stroke, but instead of a regular stroke, I want to add a dashed line pattern. And you can see this isn't looking so much like a scallop shape. So I'm going to go to the bottom here and focus on these first two boxes. The first one is going to set the shape of the dash. It's either going to be long, or if I bring it down, it's going to round it off. If I bring it all the way down to 0, it's going to be perfectly round, and that's what I want. The second one is going to change the spacing. Now I want these kind of tight together, but I also want to watch all the way around. So I want to kind of pay attention down here and see if there's anything funny going on. The width and the spacing correlate with each other when it comes to a shape like this, especially at the bottom here. So if I change this to 0.6, you can see that my bottom evens out a little bit more. Another thing that you can do if you find that you have sort of a funky pattern is make sure that balanced dash pattern is on. It's going to evenly space everything around. So I've set this to 250. I have 0.6 as my spacing and 0 to make these rounded. I'm good to go here, and I'm going to call this one done. I want to make sure that both layers are on so that I can get ready to export this. But before I do that, I do want to note that I can save this as is as a template here in Designer by going up to the top to File and down to Export as Template. Every time I pull in the template, it's going to create a copy, and I can swap out the images here, change the color of the vectors the same way that I can do in Canva. So you don't have to pull this into Canva if you don't want to. If you'd like to see a video on how to use templates in the Affinity Suite, let me know in the comments below. Now, before I export this, I need to separate my two vector layers so that they don't get blended into one another. If I leave them contiguous with the straight outline on the bottom, it's going to get sucked into the scallop and they're going to be combined as one, since the scalloped one is the larger one. So if I go into Canva and I open this one, you can see this is what I'm talking about. If I go into my positions here, this originally started as two separate ones, but because I didn't separate them, it's just one big piece. If I keep them separate but change them to two different colors, what's going to happen is this. It's still going to be one piece, but I have the opportunity to change the two colors. That's fine, but I really want to be able to remove either one of them if I want to. So what I'm going to do instead is in Designer, I'm going to take one of them and just move them up between some of the raster elements. That's not going to cause a problem with the frames once I import them, but it is going to prevent the two from being combined. With my layers in place, I'm going to go up to File and down to Export. I want to make sure this is set as a PDF. That's very important because the PDF maintains all of the layers, and it's the only way that Canva is going to read these as frames. For the preset, I'm going to choose Digital High Quality so that I don't end up with something that's going to cause pixelation if I need to scale it a bit. Everything else stays the same. I'm just going to go ahead and export it. I'll name it, and once it's done, I'll go into Canva to complete the frame process. With the PDF exported, I'm ready to pull it into Canva. Now you can either start an entirely new document by importing it directly in, or as I'm doing in here, import it into an existing document. So I've just added a new page, and I'm going to go to Uploads, choose Upload Files, and find the file that I just exported. And once it comes into the project area, I can pull it into the canvas and finish it. All right, now that it's in place, I'll just click to add it to my canvas. And when I go to position here and to my layers, you can see I have all 5 layers. These are my 2 vector layers. I'm going to drag this scallop one all the way to the bottom because it's the biggest. Now, I do want to show you that you can still change the 2 colors of these because they're 2 separate layers. So if I want to change this one to, say, this light pink, and I can select this one and change it to maybe this peach color, I still have the same option that I did here, but the difference is I can remove one or the other or both. I'm not stuck with one together. So let me go ahead and take care of the frames next. I'm going to click on each frame, and if everything went to plan, if I click on the trash can here, I'll get the option of either deleting the image or the frame. So I want to delete the image. I'll grab this one and do the same thing. And then finally the bottom one. And now I have some images that I can use to pull in here. I'm going to pull this one into the top, I think I'll pull this one down here, and I have this paper pulp that I'm going to move into the middle here. Now, these are images, so that means that I can select them and I can go up to edit at the top and use any of the adjustments that are in here. I like this duotone one. I'm going to change this to coral. I think it works well with those two colors. I'm going to leave this as is. If I wanted to pull out some of the texture, maybe some of those darker areas, I could go into adjust and down to the bottom to texture and just up the clarity a little bit. Now, while I am calling this one done, these are frames, so I can copy this and paste this into any design and continuously change it as much as I want. If you have any questions about what you've seen in this tutorial, or maybe a suggestion for another one, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy my teaching style, I invite you to check out my full-length classes on my Skillshare channel or my own learning site, The Creator Collage. I've linked to both in the description below. I have lots more to come in the Affinity Suite, Canva, and more, but in the meantime, you might want to check out one of these two next. Thanks for watching.